Welcome to Sci-Fi Invictus. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a new story. Enjoy the adventure. Marcus's heart pounded as the descent module sliced through the dense atmosphere of Zeta 9. The alien world stretched out below, a breathtaking mosaic of cerulean oceans and verdant land masses. He gripped the controls tightly, his mind buzzing with a mix of exhilaration and unease. Touchdown in 60 seconds, the AI assistant chimed. Marcus took a deep breath, steadying himself for humanity's first encounter with extraterrestrial life. Years of grueling training had led to this pivotal moment, yet nothing could truly prepare him for what awaited on the planet's surface. The module landed with a soft thud. He waited as external sensors confirmed a breathable atmosphere before unlocking the hatch. A gust of warm, fragrant air rushed in, carrying aromas both familiar and alien. Stepping onto the lush terrain, he marveled at the deep amethyst-hued grass beneath his boots. Above him, the skies shimmered with an iridescent glow, reminiscent of the interior of an abalone shell. In the distance, a cluster of sleek, crystalline structures pierced the horizon. Unmistakably, a city of advanced design. Marcus activated his universal translator and cleared his throat. "Greetings," he announced to the seemingly deserted clearing. "I come in peace, as a representative of Earth." A sudden rustling from the nearby foliage made him tense. For figures emerged, and Marcus's jaw nearly dropped. They were unmistakably feminine, with alluring curves that would turn heads on any planet. But their luminescent cerulean skin gleamed in the alien sunlight. The tallest of the four, with flowing silver hair and piercing violet eyes, stepped forward. Well, she drawled, her translator conveying an amused tone. "What do we have here?" "A little pink toy from that backward mudball." Marcus blinked, taken aback by the unexpected hostility. I'm Marcus Chen, from Earth. We've been observing your world for some time and wish to establish peaceful contact." The silver-haired woman turned to her companions with a smirk. "Did you hear that, girls? The monkey can speak." The others giggled, and a shorter alien with spiky cobalt hair piped up. "Ooh, can we keep him as a pet, Era? He's kind of cute in a primitive sort of way." Marcus felt his face flush. This was not how he had envisioned first contact. "I assure you," he said, struggling to keep his voice steady, "Earth is far from primitive. We have much to offer in terms of scientific and cultural exchange." Era, the apparent leader, circled him slowly, her analytical gaze sweeping over his form, making him feel like a specimen under examination. "I'm sure you do, little pink man. Tell me, do all humans have such intriguing protrusions?" She gestured vaguely toward his face. Marcus instinctively touched his nose. "You mean my nose?" This sparked another round of mirthful laughter. The one with spiky hair nudged her friend, a willowy alien with intricate facial markings. "Nera, I think he uses it to sense pheromones." "How quaint." Nera wrinkled her own barely their nose in disgust. Imagine having to smell things all the time. Marcus took a slow, measured breath, reminding himself of his training. Cultural misunderstandings were inevitable. He had to push past the initial awkwardness and establish a meaningful dialogue. "Ladies," he said, adopting a more formal tone, "I understand this must be quite surprising for you. Rest assured, humans are a peaceful species. We've come to learn and share knowledge. Perhaps we could start by exchanging information about our respective worlds." Era's laughter faded, replaced by a calculated look. "Oh, you're a determined little thing, aren't you? Very well, Marcus, show us what passes for technology on your mudball. Entertain us." Marcus nodded, relieved for an opening. He reached into his pack and pulled out a holographic projector. With a few taps, a shimmering image of Earth materialized in the air between them. "This is my home world," he began, zooming in on various landmarks. "As you can see, we have diverse—" "Boring," the fourth alien interrupted. Until now, she had been silent, her elaborate braids woven with glowing strands. "Mia is right, ladies," she continued. "Can't we just keep him as a novelty and be done with it?" Era held up a hand, silencing her companion. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the hologram. Wait a moment. Denia, look at the atmospheric composition data. It's intriguing. Marcus felt a surge of enthusiasm. Yes, Earth's atmosphere is unique in our solar system. The balance of nitrogen and oxygen allows for combustion reactions that would be impossible in your environment, Era finished, a hint of genuine curiosity creeping into her voice. For the first time, Marcus felt a glimmer of hope. Quickly, he presented more scientific data, sensing he had finally found common ground with at least one of them. As he spoke, Era's demeanor subtly shifted. The mocking edge in her question softened, replaced by more pointed inquiries about Earth's technology and scientific achievements. However, the others quickly grew bored. Era, are we really going to stand here all day listening to the monkey babble? Nera whined. Mia, the one with spiky hair, nodded in agreement. Yeah, I thought we were going to have some fun with him. See if he does any tricks. Marcus felt frustration bubbling inside him. I'm not some sideshow attraction, he said firmly. I'm here as an equal, hoping to foster understanding between our species. Denia rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Equal? You're barely more evolved than the lizard monkeys that infest our southern continent. That's enough, Era said sharply, surprising everyone. She turned to Marcus with a scrutinizing gaze. You've piqued my interest, human. Perhaps you're not as primitive as we first assumed. Marcus exhaled, relieved by the unexpected intervention. Thank you. I'd be happy to continue our discussion and answer any questions you have about Earth. Era smiled, a gesture that sent a chill down Marcus's spine. It wasn't exactly warm, but there was an unmistakable predatory edge to it. Oh, I have many questions, she purred. But I think a more hands-on approach is in order. What do you say to a private tour of our city, Marcus? I'm sure we could learn so much from each other. Marcus hesitated. On one hand, this was the cultural exchange he had hoped for. On the other, something in Era's sultry tone carried undertones he couldn't quite decipher. I would be honored, he said cautiously, but perhaps we should all go together. I'm sure your friends have valuable insights as well. Era waved a dismissive hand. Oh, they have their own tasks to attend to. Isn't that right, ladies? The other three exchanged knowing glances. Nera smirked, her voice dripping with innuendo. Of course, Era. We wouldn't want to interfere with your scientific inquiry. Marcus's cheeks burned. There was clearly subtext he was missing, but he couldn't let this opportunity slip away. Squaring his shoulders, he took a steadying breath. Very well, he said. Lead the way, Era. I look forward to learning about your world. The canyon walls blurred past as Era piloted their battered hover vehicle with a precision that belied her lack of formal training. Marcus clutched a makeshift weapon he cobbled together, his eyes darting between the treacherous path ahead and the ominous purifier crafts in pursuit. We can't keep this up forever, Nera shouted over the roaring wind, her face etched with worry. The vehicle's energy reserves are critically low. Marcus's mind raced. They needed a plan, fast. Suddenly, inspiration struck. Era, that research facility you mentioned, does it have a communication array? Era nodded, violet eyes narrowing in understanding. Yes, but it's outdated technology. Why? A grim smile played across Marcus's lips. Because if we can't outrun them, we'll outmaneuver them with the truth. As if on cue, the hover vehicle sputtered, its engines whining in protest. Era guided them into a concealed alcove as the enemy craft screamed past overhead. We're out of options, Denia panted, her hand protectively cradling her swollen belly. It's now or never. Marcus nodded, his resolve hardening. All right, here's the plan. What followed was a grueling trek across the alien landscape, the five of them moving as quickly as the women's advanced pregnancies allowed. They used the rocky terrain to their advantage, dodging patrols and staying hidden from aerial surveillance. Marcus's diplomatic training had never prepared him for anything like this, but an unshakable sense of purpose drove him forward. As they crested the final ridge, the research facility loomed before them, a squat, weathered structure nestled against the mountainside. There it is, Era breathed, a mixture of relief and apprehension in her voice. Our last hope. They approached cautiously, wary of traps or hidden defenses, but the facility appeared abandoned, a relic of a bygone era of Zetan scientific exploration. Inside, layers of dust coated once advanced equipment, their functions now a mystery. Marcus had eyes for only one thing, the communications array. "It's been years since this was used," Mia muttered, her fingers dancing over the controls with surprising dexterity. "But I think, yes, we've got power." Marcus stepped up to the transmitter, his heart pounding. This was it, their one chance to shift the narrative, to reach beyond fear and ignorance. Taking a deep breath, he began to speak. "People of Zeta 9, people of Earth, my name is Marcus Chen, and I come to you not as a diplomat, not as a human, but as a father-to-be of children who represent the future of both our worlds." His voice carried across frequencies both known and forgotten, cutting through the chaos that had engulfed them. He spoke of fear and prejudice, of the dangers of allowing history to be dictated by intolerance. But more than that, he spoke of hope, of the potential their children represented, a living bridge between two civilizations. As his words flowed, something remarkable happened. The facility's long-dormant system surged to life, broadcasting not just his voice, but holographic images of their harrowing journey. Across Zeta 9, and thanks to the powerful array, across Earth, people watched in real time. They saw the tender moments between Marcus and the four women, the fear and excitement as they discovered the pregnancies, the desperate escape from those who sought to destroy them. And, most importantly, they saw the undeniable truth. This was not an abomination. It was evolution. It was a chance at something greater than war and division. For a brief, aching moment, silence reigned. Then the first response came, not from the High Council, not from Earth's leadership, but from ordinary people. Messages began flooding in, expressions of awe, support, and most unexpectedly, curiosity. The world was watching, and the tide was beginning to turn. Marcus exhaled slowly, gripping Ira's hand as they stood together before the console, the weight of an uncertain future pressing down upon them. Whatever came next, he knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The transmission spread like wildfire across Zeta 9 and beyond, reaching the highest echelons of Earth's diplomatic corps. The world was watching. The people of both planets saw Marcus's plea, the undeniable proof of life growing within the four Zetan women, and a desperate hope in their eyes. It was no longer a secret experiment. It was history in the making. For a long moment, silence filled the abandoned research facility. Then, the communication system flickered with an incoming response. A holographic projection materialized before them. Chancellor Varric, the leader of the Zetan High Council, his violet eyes, so similar to Ira's, regarded them with unreadable intensity. "Marcus Chen," Varric said, his voice level but carrying the weight of authority. "Your words have sparked something unprecedented. There is division among our people. Some see this as an abomination, others as evolution. But you have forced us to confront what we cannot ignore." Marcus swallowed, feeling the gravity of the moment. Behind him, Era, Nera, Denaya, and Mia stood together, their hands instinctively resting on their growing bellies. "What happens now, Chancellor?" Marcus asked. Varric exhaled slowly. "You and the mothers of these children will be brought to the Council. We must decide the fate of these unborn hybrids and the future of our species." Marcus's stomach clenched. This was far from over. The journey back to the Zetan capital was unlike their escape. This time, they were escorted by an official convoy. The tension was palpable. The streets of the city were flooded with Zetan citizens, some shouting in protest, others in awe. As their transport glided toward the High Council chambers, Marcus noticed signs that read evolution, not corruption, and protect our future. The divide among the people was clear. Inside the Grand Council Hall, towering crystal columns refracted the artificial sunlight, bathing the room in shifting hues. The chamber was filled with Zetan officials, human diplomats who had arrived in response to the broadcast, and the leaders of both factions, those who wanted to embrace this change, and those who wanted to eradicate it. Era stood at Marcus's side, her grip firm on his hand. "No matter what happens, we face it together," she whispered. The council proceedings were grueling. The opposition, led by a radical faction of religious purists, argued that the hybrid children were a threat to Zetan purity, an unnatural deviation. But others, including leading scientists and even some conservative officials, saw the potential for unity and progress. Marcus spoke with everything he had, calling upon Earth's history, how humanity had once fought over race, class, and origins, only to learn that diversity was strength. "This is not the end of your species," he declared. "This is its next chapter." The debate stretched for days, with no clear resolution. But the tide began to turn when the Zetan scientists presented their findings. The hybrids weren't just viable. They showed signs of unique genetic adaptability, a blending of strengths from both species, a new bridge between two civilizations. Finally, Chancellor Varick stood. The entire chamber fell silent. "We cannot ignore the truth," he said. "These children are coming into the world, whether we accept it or not. The only question that remains is whether we embrace them as our future or destroy what could be our greatest evolution." A vote was called. The tension was suffocating as Marcus stood between the four women carrying his children, their fates hanging in the balance. Then the results came in. By a narrow margin, the High Council ruled in their favor. The hybrids would be allowed to live. The chamber erupted into chaos. Shouts of triumph, outrage, and disbelief. But it was done. Marcus felt his knees nearly give out as relief crashed over him. He turned to Era, who looked up at him with misty violet eyes. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Marcus said, shaking his head. "We did." The following months were a whirlwind. Security was tightened to protect the expecting mothers from extremist threats, but the tide of public sentiment shifted. Curiosity turned to acceptance. Acceptance turned to celebration. The birth of the first human Zetan hybrid was broadcast across both worlds. When Marcus held his child, his daughter, for the first time he knew, without a doubt, that nothing would ever be the same again. What had started as a mission of diplomacy had transformed into something far greater. It was no longer just about first contact. It was about the birth of a new era.